Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, host of the Riderflex podcast and founder and CEO of our day job recruiting firm, Riderflex. We hope you enjoy this episode. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast for updates and news. Finally, if you haven't already, check out the series of books we've published on hiring, interviewing, and overall career advice titled The Riderflex Guide, available on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Most homeowners don't have the time or expertise to properly take care of their home, which causes costly issues to arise. That's where Kira Home Maintenance comes in. We're a full-service, routine maintenance company that was developed by a certified home inspector. Each quarter, we service our clients' homes following manufacturer's recommendations to properly maintain all the necessary appliances. We provide the materials and expertise to prolong the life of your property, creating a healthy and efficient environment for your family. From top to bottom, we'll maintain and service your home. To get started, we have a property inspection to determine what needs to be maintained, and a maintenance plan is created based on your preferences. From refrigerator coils to filters, vents, and drains, we do it all, and we do it well. Contact us today for your free routine maintenance inspection, and never worry about your maintenance again.
Sharon Madison on the Riderflex podcast. Hello, Sharon. How are you?
Hi, Steve. I'm good. Great.
Where are you located today?
In Denver.
In Denver. Okay. What, do you live downtown? What part? What area?
Close to downtown. I'm in like East Sloan's Lake, but it is literally like less than a mile from downtown.
Okay. Is Denver going to get better? Is it going to go north again, or is it going to continue to deteriorate? Slamming my Denver, I don't know, the homeless situation, the trash. What's going on, Sharon? When are we gonna?
You know what? I don't know. It is a little worrisome. I spend the winters in Tucson. And then, I have a nonprofit here. We'll get to that later. Nonprofit in Tucson. So half the year I'm down there running the nonprofit. The year here I'm running the nonprofit. And when we come back, like in May, it was like this year was a shock. On all the homelessness we saw, number one, the traffic is unbelievable. It used to never bother me. But then when you kind of get down, go somewhere else, like you're in Wyoming.
Yeah. I see like one person an hour.
Yeah, right. And then you come here to Denver and you're like in shock. So
I'm not slamming my I live north of Denver. I just, downtown. We could do a whole podcast episode on it. Hopefully it stops. We need to stop the bleeding. Anyway, right. Sharon, before we get started with We Ride For, the nonprofit, tell our listeners about yourself personally. I like the logo there. Nice. History, mom, dad, siblings, where you grew up. Go for it.
Okay, so I grew up in a little town in Nebraska called Steiner, Nebraska. A town of 100 people.
Ooh.
And we had 10 kids in my family.
Wow, your family dominated the entire town.
We pretty much dominated the entire town, right? So, it was great growing up in that little town because you learned a lot of values, a lot of really good values. I think I'm the only human being out there almost who doesn't swear, and
really, were your folks pretty religious, pretty conservative, church going, all that?
Yeah. Well, we lived next door to the Catholic Church, and you had to be on your death if you wanted to miss mass. So, but you got your mouth washed out if you said any swear words. So I think that's been instilled in me. It's just like I don't swear because I think my mom will still come down from above and strike me if I do swear. So, I get teased about that a lot. Don't swear in front of mom. When I used to race, they always called me mama. And they said, don't swear in front of mama, so it just kind of became a joke.
So I'll be 56 in August. And still to this day, I do not say curse words in front of my mother. She's very religious, grew up in Oklahoma, very, conservative, religious. Like you just don't curse in front of her. I mean, you just don't, right? You had to respect more than anything. Hell, I don't even, if I drink in front of her, I put it in like a cup where there's like it's hidden.
So she doesn't know.
Yeah. I'm sure she probably smells it, but I make myself feel better by hiding it in a cup, even now at this age.
I love it.
Very interesting. So your mom was like that. Is your mom still with us, or you said come down from heaven? So she passed away.
No, so both my parents passed away in April of 17. My dad was 98.
Wow.
My mom was 95.
Holy cow.
They didn't have any health issues. They were fine. They were pretty good mentally even too. And my dad just woke up one day after Easter in 2017, and he woke up and he said to my sister, went down to visit, that he wasn't feeling great. And he went back to bed and he never woke up. And then 3 weeks to the day later, my mom passed away. And we thought she'd stay around for like 6 months. But no, it's 3 weeks to the day later. And
what's she passed from?
She fell asleep too. And
what?
That's how they both went that way. So it's bittersweet. Number one, it's a shock because you think your parents are going to live forever. And it's not like they had any and she just kind of didn't sound right. And I wasn't understanding her. And I asked her if she was tired, and I asked her if I can call her back. And she said, no, she didn't want me to hang up. And I thought, this is weird, but I couldn't understand her. And so then the only thing I understood was I love you. And that was it. And so I called my sister, I said, something's wrong with mom. And she said, I just spoke to her. She's fine. And I go, no, she's not fine. I said, I couldn't understand her. And then I called my brother, who was a hospice doctor. And he goes, I said, something's wrong with mom. No, she's fine. I just talked to her. So they're telling me she's fine. So my younger sister did go down and check on her and immediately knew and said, mom's ready to go. So she literally that Monday morning just said to my sister, just tell your siblings I'm proud of them and I love them. And she went to sleep and never woke up. So
that is what a story. I mean, they were married for how many years?
74.
74 years married, died within 3 weeks of each other, and both died in their sleep peacefully.
Yes.
That is wow. That's a wow.
I could say it's so funny. This is the funniest part was when my mom was 90, she kept saying, I want a divorce. I want a divorce. And we're all laughing at her. We're like, Mom, you're 90 years of that long time ago, not when you're 90, because as they got older, I could tell they started just driving each other crazy, but they did well. And I mean, 74 years is a long time. And my mom was pregnant 13 times in 17 years. How about that?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Can't imagine.
No, I can't imagine. Well, one last thing on that before we move away from your immediate family there. Some of the younger generation listening to this episode have probably never heard the term, I will wash your mouth out with soap. But that was readily available in my childhood. I can guarantee you.
Yes.
Today, someone would call like the authorities on you for
they would call the authorities.
Something. Oh, okay. So appreciate you sharing that. How about now for you? Now, married, kids, partners, single, divorced. What's your situation?
So I was married for 28 years, with my ex for 30 years.
Okay.
And he's a great guy. We get along. He's truly just a great guy. I think we just fell apart. I'm the Energizer Bunny and he's kind of not as Energizer Bunny fast paced like me, I guess. But he is a great guy. So We had 2 boys together and we did great raising them. So we had, Eric and Zachary.
Okay.
And, and then Eric, if you want me to go on,
Yeah.
Eric, I lost in 2016.
Oh, I'm sorry.
2016.
Oh, what happened?
So it was just a freak accident. He worked for United Launch Alliance. He
Okay.
had a great job with them. He was working late on election night to do a launch in Vandenberg that Friday.
Okay.
And all we can think is he grabbed the wastebasket because he wasn't feeling well. And I think he thought he was going to get sick. He passed out and then he asphyxiated and died.
By himself?
And
was he alone?
he was alone. It was just, the worst.
Oh my gosh.
Of my
Oh
life.
my gosh. It's terrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The cleaning crew found him, and, we did an autopsy, to try to, figure out why, and we got no answers. So unfortunately, my why will never get answered.
Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry, Sharon.
Thank you.
Was he married, kids? Was he a single?
No, he was 27 years old. He had a girlfriend, Elizabeth, who I still keep in touch with. Just lovely. I'm sure if he was around, they would have ended up getting married.
That's a bummer. I'm so sorry. Oh,
yeah. So it's, it's rough sometimes,
I bet. How about your other son?
My other son, Zachary, he lives here in Denver. He actually lives downtown. He works for the Arvada Center. He's into the theater and the arts. He does stage management. He absolutely loves it. He's great at what he does. He was going to go into medical school and kind of did an about face. But he did great on the MCATs, great all the way through college. But, he did a couple internships through college, and he's, I think he saw how the system is broken.
Okay.
And so, but he always had a minor. He was doing a minor in theater. So he just stayed with theater and he loves it. And you know what? As long as they're happy with what they do, they enjoy their job. You know what? That's what matters. That's
totally.
what matters.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Hey, if you're doing what makes you happy, good for you. Hey, right. Bless your heart. There's so many people getting up and going to work every day that hate it.
Right.
Because they have trapped themselves into this materialistic world where they think they have to have a certain house or a certain car, live in a certain neighborhood, and they somehow thought that was going to make them happy. But meanwhile, they wake up every day and drive to a job that they just can't stand. I feel sorry for those people.
No, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah. So good for him. Yeah, good for him. Well, let's back up a little bit. When you left the small town, I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile, and there's not a ton on there that I can pull from.
Oh, you know what? There's 2 profiles up there.
Oh.
The other one hasn't really totally been updated. The more recent with the bike photo, there is another profile of me.
I see.
In a dress and a lot younger.
Well, tell us, where did you go to school? What'd you do after you left the small town? And tell us about, you obviously raised 2 sons, but did you have an early career and all that? Walk us through some of that.
I did. So I immediately started modeling school, which is kind of like a weird thing. But so I did.
I got to pull up. I got to pull up the other photo right now. I got to see what you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's definitely not one of my modeling shots. It's after that. Anyway, so I was into fashion, and so I decided to go into modeling school. Now I look back, I don't know why, but it was a great experience. It truly was. So I moved to Omaha. I had a job in Omaha set up after I graduated with a high-end store there.
I see Polo Ralph Lauren. Now I got the profile pulled up.
Polo Ralph Lauren wasn't the store there, but yes, I was there for 8 years.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was Hovland Swanson's, which is no longer around. So I worked for them. I managed the men's department. I helped with a little buying, kind of a mixture of stuff. And I continued to do, some modeling jobs here and there. I did go through modeling school for about a year.
Cool.
And I learned a lot, from it. I can't say it was a waste of money because it wasn't. And then, I did that for a few years. Then 81, I got offered a job out here with Fashion Bar.
Is this
And
before you were married? Before you were married?
yes, yeah.
Okay. All right.
This is definitely before I was married. No,
Okay. All
you
right.
know,
All right.
nobody in my life, then. And so I got offered a job by Fashion Bar, and they offered to move me out here, and they had a management kind of merchandise training program, and it was a year-long course. So it was a course that they offered that in the basement of their store downtown. So you had studies and you learned. So you did this course, and it was like a year. And then you also worked out on the floor and learned other things,
Cool.
about the business, etc.
Okay.
So
All right, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I did that so I went through that course, did that for, well, I don't know, at least my time zone. I was there for a year, probably a little bit over a year. And then Perkins Shear reached out to me. That was a high-end clothing store here in Denver. Asked me to come work for them over at their store at University Hills. So they offered me a job over there. So I went over there.
Can I pause you real quick? No bike riding and no major fitness stuff at this point yet. That wasn't quite there yet, or were you always into? Okay.
No, I was just, I would say, I should say that I sort of became, once I moved to Denver, a gym rat. I'd go to the gym and go work out and stuff.
Okay.
I kind of pretty much just did that, but I really, no biking, nothing. That started when I was 40. That's where I jumped into that.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. That's what.
Yeah. So that came later in life.
So when were you a fitness instructor? Was the same time when you started getting into biking? You started being a fitness instructor, what, 94?
Yes. So that's kind of when I started. I mean, I was a gym rat. So then I became a fitness instructor.
I see.
Okay. I did that for years. I was still in, I was at Polo Ralph Lauren, then Perkins Shear also had Polo Ralph Lauren. So I just kept moving up in the store. And then I went over to help manage that store. And then I ended up, then the babies came. So that's why, so then, Eric came first. So I quit working. And then, once he got into preschool, I went back part-time, and then I got into wholesale. So I worked out at the Denver Merchandise Mart, sold women's apparel, and got into wholesale.
What was your husband doing at the time?
He's a lawyer.
Oh, he's a lawyer. Oh man, that might not have okay. Did he win in the divorce because he was a lawyer, or you had a good lawyer? No, I'm just joking. You don't have to answer that.
We we just stayed away. We just tried to stay away from lawyers. I can't tell you how lucky I am. Like, he checks in on me, we can go to events together. He's with his girlfriend. I'm with my guy. It's
wow.
great.
Right.
People are always jealous because they're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have that relationship with my ex that you have. I mean, he truly is a great guy.
Well, that's good. Sorry, I didn't mean to double back on that. Okay.
No, that's okay.
How did walk us into how'd the biking kind of get started? Like, how'd that start?
So when I turned 40, I decided that's what I wanted for my birthday. So I went and got a bike. I did a custom bike, and that's what I got for my 40th birthday. And I just started.
Well, what triggered that though? Was there a friend biking? Were there some people like, hey, come biking with us?
Yeah. Well, there was a friend who always came to my spin class, and we worked out together.
I see.
And they're like, there actually was 3 of us, and we were all turning, 40, and we all kind of said, let's just go get a bike and let's just start riding. So I remember I got my bike, picked it up, and the next day I went and did the Elephant Rock 65-mile ride.
Were you in shape for it? I mean,
I was in pretty good shape because I was a gym rat, but biking, you're still using totally different set of muscles and stuff. And I mean, I did it, but was I kind of hurting? I was, had a camelback on, which I would never wear now, cycling. And, I was new to it. So I kind of looked like a Doris, with my little camelback and,
were you immediately looking around going, oh, okay, is that what you're supposed to wear? Oh, is that shoes? Okay, is that this, that? You're like making little notes. I need to get this. I need to get that.
You know what? You see all varieties, even to this day. You see all varieties, all different looks, but yeah, I've become a snob on the look and what you should wear and what you should not wear. And if
Uh,
somebody comes to the, if somebody comes on a ride or something and they're like, watch out, you might get it from Sharon.
So you started
So,
really entrenching yourself in the community then during this time. You went to all the events, you knew all the main riders. And did you get super competitive? Did you go to a
um,
bunch of,
no,
I
I
mean,
would say
you were
I
already
would
competitive.
say I was, yeah, pretty competitive and stuff. So I wasn't racing then. In 2011. So in
Okay.
2011, so then for my 50th birthday, I decided to have a mountain bike. So between 40 and 50, I was riding. I
Okay.
would do cycling events. And then when I was 50, I said, oh, I need to get a mountain bike. So I get a mountain bike. And needless to say, on one of the rides, I'm following this coach I was working with who jumped up a curb. Okay, we're at the end of our ride, and
Okay.
he takes his bike and jumps up a curb. And I start going fast, thinking I could jump up that curb. And I slammed on my brakes. And so I got ejected and fractured my wrist and had plate and screws put in. And I did what you're not supposed to do on a mountain bike. So, yeah,
Bummer.
so that came along when I was 50. But then what happened was I went to this studio called Fast Labs, and they said to me, they were like, I went in there because I couldn't train outside, and they had CompuTrainers.
Okay.
I'm, working out, and they're looking at my numbers, and they're like, why aren't you racing? I go, I don't want to race. I'm afraid of racing. They go, no, you need to be racing.
That's okay.
So then they threw the whole racing bug in me. So then I started racing.
For
And
the 50 and up club, was it by age? How does that work?
no, I started with Cat 4.
I
So
don't
I
know
had
I don't know what
all
that means.
ages. Yeah,
Oh,
so I had all ages in my group. Later I did do age group. But the problem is a lot of those women in age group had been racing forever and ever and ever.
yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm not jumping into that fire. So I started with the Cat 4 because then it's more people who have been only racing a few years.
Okay.
Um,
Now, isn't that interesting? Is it fair to say that if you hadn't fractured your wrist, you may never have got into racing?
yeah, of course that's fair to say that.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's
I
amazing
don't,
how little things in life happen like that, isn't it? Little
yeah,
doorways, little turn left,
yep,
turn right, something happens to you.
yeah,
It's so amazing. Oh, interesting. Okay. And when you say racing your regular bike or your mountain bike?
regular bike,
Okay, regular bike. Did you keep your
just a
mountain
road
bike?
bike.
You were still riding your mountain bike too, though.
Yes. So I was still riding my mountain bike, not as much. I couldn't ever I didn't like the technical stuff. There's a lot of rocks here in Colorado.
You got that right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. What's the first like big win? Like the first time where you're like, wow, this is really something. I won this race. What was the first one?
The first race that I raced, I think I got second or third place.
Okay.
So,
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So let's put it this way. Through half the season, I got moved up. So, I had a good season.
Okay. All right. 50 years and up, I did a 5K run with a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
I'll never forget. After the races, I know because you do this for a living. After the races, everybody gathers under the little tents and have snacks and drinks and beers and whatever. I'm standing there. Some girl runs over to me. She goes, "Are you Mr. Urban? Mr. Urban?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Congratulations." And she's holding this ribbon thing. She goes, "You got first place in your division." I was like, "Oh, that's great." And she I didn't know that. And she puts the thing around my neck. And I said, "Well, how many people were in my division?" She goes, "Oh, just you."
I love it. I love it.
My friends just gave me hell for weeks after that. But anyway,
love it.
okay. Now,
Love
what were you doing there was no, at this time, you had no real prior nonprofit experience, no like secret desire to be nonprofit necessarily. that wasn't really a part of your life before that, was it?
No,
Okay.
that was not part of my life at all. So I ran into at one of the pro cycling challenges. So, I got onto a race team. I was racing.
Okay.
So that kind of went on for like 5 years or, training all the time, doing those wonderful intervals that we don't like to do. And, so then I was at the pro cycling challenge in Vail, and somebody, it's actually, I shouldn't say someone, the guy I'm with now, he actually was up there working.
Okay.
And he came up to me and he said, I know a couple of women from your team. And so then we started talking.
That was his opening line. You know what that really was? It's like, man, he's like,
no, we were both married at the time.
Oh, okay.
So it was no opening
line. Okay. Sorry.
So then I saw him again in Denver. And, he said to me, there was another nonprofit, and he said, I want to introduce you to them. He was on the board of this other nonprofit. And he goes, I want to introduce you to them because what they do is get kids on bikes. But we've talked about starting a cycling club, and I was wondering if you would have any interest in that. So that's kind of how that started. And he introduced me to this person. And so we kind of became like the Three Stooges for probably about, 3 years, where we were, I helped them because they didn't know what they were doing. So I helped them build up the cycling club, design the clothing, do all the stuff you need to do. So I ended up being with that nonprofit for over 6 years.
Is this non-paid? Is this a volunteer thing for you?
It was volunteer for several years until the last couple years.
Okay. And what were you doing for a living at that time? How were you paying the rent?
So that time I wasn't doing that. So that time, how long was it? I was getting my maintenance from my ex. So that helped. So I was using that. I was just reinventing myself during this time.
Okay. So you had time. Perfect timing, because you had gone through the divorce, you had a little income sliding your way. Perfect time to get involved in this, right? That worked out good.
It worked out great. It was just, and that's where I was lucky. My ex was great because he knew I had to reinvent myself.
Cool.
And do something.
Cool. And the kids were out of the house too. So
they were out of college. So out of the house. So so that helped a lot too.
Yeah, it's perfect. Instead of you sitting around watching TV going, what the hell am I going to do with my life? You're like, okay, let's try this.
Right. So I think through that process of being there over 6 years, I learned so much. Cool. I learned what to do, what not to do. I truly learned a lot.
That's great.
And then, COVID hit, and they basically kind of shut down. And so,
what was the name of that? What was the name of that nonprofit?
Wish for Wheels.
What was it?
Wish for Wheels.
Wish for Wheels. Why was that the name?
Wheels.
Oh, Wish for Wheels. Sorry. Okay, now I got it. Now I got it. Okay.
Because you get kids out on the bikes.
I got you. All right, very good. So COVID hit, it kind of shut down, and then what? You're kind of having another moment, like, what do I do now, or what?
Right,
happened?
And it was kind of like, they wanted me to sign. They wanted me to take over the club, and it was like a 26-page contract, and I just said no. I'm not doing that. Yeah. And so it was like going through a divorce all over again. To be honest with you, it broke my heart.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It got a little messy at the end. That's too bad.
Yeah. It did break because that executive director, he was like a brother to me. So it was a very tough time for me. But then everybody came to me because I built that club up, and everybody kept coming to me, our clothing sponsor, John, and everybody kept saying, Sharon, you can do this on your own. Start your own nonprofit.
Sure.
And I was scared to death. They said, you can do it. We're here to help you. We'll support you. You can do it. And it was the best thing they ever did. Truly, getting laid off was the best thing that ever happened to me. At the time, you don't feel that way. And you're going through a lot of pain, a lot of tears, a lot of hurt. But then it was truly the best thing that ever happened to me, because then I got to start my own nonprofit. I get to run it the way I want to run it, and, do it the way that I feel is the best way. And if, you just keep learning as you move along. And I had so many people who believed in me because I could not have done it without them.
Let's take a pause right there for the listeners. Yes, when you get laid off, and I have been as well, I've been terminated, not just laid off. It is a devastating emotional time in your life. Your ego, your short-term finances take a little bit of a hit. So many things happen to you psychologically and even physically. It is a blow, but most of the time, maybe not every time, but most of the time, it's probably fair to say that people can look back and go, you know what? If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing this. And it's also, for the listeners, before we get off the topic, it's a wonderful time to actually take a deep breath and go, wow, okay, here we are in this moment in my life where now from this point forward, I can do whatever I want to do. Like I can take whatever turn I want to take. If I want to buy a van and drive to California and paint flowers on it, okay, do that. Whatever it is you want to do, like now is that moment. Now you have been forced to call time out and you can do whatever you want to do next. So for those people facing that, it can turn out positive. And I just wanted to mention that.
I mean, it's so true. And you have to, sometimes I think we focus so much on the negative that we forget about the positive.
Yes.
And I always say to everybody, a positive will come out of this.
It will.
Don't dwell on that negative and stay in that negative hole. A positive will come out of it.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm just, losing my son, of course, there's no positive out of that, but, it's just, it teaches you about, life is short, et cetera. And you do learn stuff from it. But I mean, here I've gone from losing my son, 5 months later, losing both parents, then, 2018, 19. So I had a couple smooth years, and then here 2020, getting laid off. But then I started this new nonprofit. And so, it's just a lot going on and happening, but, you have to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Yep. You have to keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yes. It's the key thing. Just go. So
yes. What's that famous scene where Sylvester Stallone's talking to his son in one of those Rocky movies, and he's like, just keep pushing forward. Just keep pushing forward. You have to keep pushing, because life will beat you down if you let it.
Absolutely. I mean, we all go through a lot of stuff. I mean, I've had my crap, but I know you and everybody else has had your share of crap, and you just gotta go.
If you're over 50s, you have all these scars on your back. When you take your shirt off, you have all these scars. Oh, that one scar right here. Yeah, that happened.
Yes, it's so true.
All right. So your friends are telling you, hey, do your own thing. And you're like, okay. So now's a good time. Let's roll into it. Go.
Right. So you have to understand it's COVID. Everybody's locked down. I mean, nothing's going on. So that's the best time ever to, file all the papers you need to file and do everything, get a website going and to do everything you need to do. So we just, got really busy, and I did have a couple volunteers who were great, who helped me out and helped me move forward. And at that time I was down in Tucson, COVID hit. So I just stayed down there. I didn't come back. I was just kind of, I was flying back and forth, the Tucson chapter wasn't even existent. John, and I ended up getting together in the end of 2016.
I see.
The one who was on the board of the other nonprofit.
Okay.
And so he, built a place, was doing business down in Tucson. Okay. So I would just kind of fly back and forth because I was still teaching spin. Oh, that's right. I forgot. That was my other job. I was teaching like 20 hours a week. So
I see. Okay.
So I kept doing that. So I was constantly teaching a lot of different fitness classes and stuff. So
okay. All right. And okay. And how did you come up with the name We Ride For? I'm curious.
So We Ride For, like, who we sponsor here in Denver, Lucky to Ride. Okay, so we ride to give, but we ride for other nonprofits. So we're a nonprofit, but we help support other nonprofits to get more kids out on bikes.
I see. Okay.
So in Tucson, we ride for Pueblo Road Warriors. So they're in South Tucson, they're a high school, and we get those kids out on bikes.
I see. Okay. That's how, and by the way, for the listeners, it's we ride the number4.org, right? We
Yes.
ride the number4.org. Okay. And so, so that is your whole mission, is to support other nonprofits that are tied to cycling and kids.
Yes, pretty much, but not 100%.
Okay.
So we have an MS team that we put together
Oh,
every year. So it's Primal Audi Denver we ride for. We had our event the end of June. Our team as a whole raised $126,000 for MS. As a cycling club, all my members, we raised over 50,000.
how about that?
Just my members, raised over 50,000 to donate to MS.
And how do you raise cash? Do you do the cycling members
their
of
platform? So MS has a platform that you use to raise. So, you let everybody know you're on this team, you're raising money, to help, support MS research. And so then that's how that works with their platform.
And can you educate me? I'm sorry, I don't know this. Is each individual rider and member of your club, do they like call their friends and say, hey, I'm doing this race. Can you donate? Can you donate $100 or is that?
Yes. So
Okay.
they post, they have it, with social media now, it's easy. So they could just post on social media.
Right.
And, send out emails, whatever. So everybody raises, their own money. I think I raised a little over $1,500.
I see.
But I have one rider who raised over $6,000.
And do they raise that cash, or they say, hey, can you donate X, like $1 per mile, or can you just donate a certain amount for the race? How do they do that?
So everybody just donates whatever they want to donate.
I see. Okay, very good.
So every member in my club who did it, I would just donate $25 to their fundraising page.
Okay. And do you have like a little chart? Johnny got the most donations. Mary was second.
Yeah, the MS has that whole chart. So I can go in there. I know exactly where everybody is. So you have to raise a minimum of 400. That is required.
I see.
And so, I watch that closely because I'm the captain of the team. So, if there's people who haven't made their 400, I give them ideas and tips how to go out there and how to raise the $400. So
okay, very good.
There's a minimum.
Okay, good. Is it a tax benefit for me if I write a check to your organization?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like on We Ride For. So if you donate, anybody who donates to We Ride For, I give them a tax donation receipt.
Perfect.
So,
great. Yeah, very good. Very good.
Because since, we are a nonprofit, but again, as I mentioned, so I'm just going to, I want to, I'm about sharing the love.
Okay.
So we do designate one nonprofit in Denver. We designate one nonprofit in Tucson, but that does not mean we're not going to give to other nonprofits.
Okay. So you'll do, what if, okay. So for any nonprofit, they could, if they listen to this episode, they can call you and say, hey, we want you to come help us.
Well, I only have so much money and I only have so much giving power. So usually what I do is like another one, World Bicycle Relief. Okay. That is a nonprofit in Africa. What they do is these kids walk 5 miles every day to school, right?
Okay.
So this organization gets kids on bikes.
Great. I think that's awesome.
So they can go to school.
Awesome.
So one of our members, he also is one of our sponsors, and he does a sponsorship for World Bicycle Relief. They're on our jersey. So he pays for a sponsorship to have them on our jersey, but he's very active with them. So last year at Christmas, I like to do surprise checks. So he showed up at his door with a big fake check for $10,000 and gave it to him to give to World Bicycle Relief so they can give more of these kids,
Cool.
in Africa, bikes, so they have a way to get to school besides walking.
I like that. Okay, very good. How do you guys, I know you're nonprofit, but do you pay yourself something? You got to give yourself like an admin salary of some kind, right? Don't you?
Yeah, we have, we have sponsorships,
Okay.
where you can get on your jersey. We have donations.
Okay.
We take the donations. We have the memberships. We have clothing sales.
Oh.
So, all these different ways is how, we bring money in and raise money. So yeah, of course we have to use X amount of dollars for operations, because you do have all the operations.
Sure.
I mean, you have insurance, you have
Yep.
accountant. I mean, you have, all those different expenses we have in everyday life. So
yes.
So we definitely, have the operation.
I see the shop button now on the cart button on the website. That's cool. Okay. Very good.
Shop away.
Yeah. All right. Do you have employees? Do you 1099 or people helping you? What's the setup of the team?
So I have 2 employees, who work anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week. One is John, and the other one is this woman, Prilla. She does a lot of my write-ups for me, a lot of the content stuff. Okay. So, she helps me there. And then I do have, one I pay, contract. So, and, she's young and she's great. So she can help me a lot with the more operation stuff. It's kind of what she helps me with.
Where's the bulk of your cash come in? Is it through the sponsor on the t-shirts and things? Is it through private single donations? Is it through company donations? Is it through product purchase off the website? How would you rank them?
I would say sponsorship is number 1. And then number 2 is donations.
Okay.
It's kind of pretty much, how it works.
Okay. And this keeps you busy full time, or you're not doing any?
Oh my gosh. It's 24/7. I really need to, I work all the time. Yeah. I don't have enough time. It's not healthy. And I realize it's not healthy. So I do eventually, like in the near future, I need to get an event person or someone to really come on and really help with more of the operation stuff, because I really should go out there and be looking for sponsors. I should be looking for donations.
Yes.
But I'm doing all the day-to-day stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a lot. So here you go again. It's a negative and it's a positive. So yes, I built up this great nonprofit. We are doing, really, really well. We're able to, give and help other nonprofits, but now I'm so busy, I have no time for me. So
you're right. Yeah, you're right. For it to go to the next level, somebody's got to take over tactical day to day, and you got to be the face out there, shaking hands, kissing babies, asking people to write checks, all that stuff.
Yes. So, eventually my goal is, at the first of the year to kind of get out there and see if we can get somebody else in and to help me out a little bit more. And
have you gotten comfortable asking people for money? Have you gotten used to it yet, or is it still weird?
It is. I would say I am better at it, but it's not, it's not 100% comfortable thing to say. Hey, Steve, will you write me a check for $25,000?
Yeah. It's
I always say I feel more comfortable saying, give what you can. Because if you think about it, so I'll do Giving Tuesday, Facebook Giving Tuesday. Okay. And I always say, give what you can, because if someone gives $1 and someone gives $100, it adds up, whatever amount. But if you have a lot of people who give, it truly adds up. So I don't ever want anybody to feel pressure from me. So I'm going to just say, give what you're comfortable giving. Now, our sponsorship levels, yes, we have sponsorship levels. We have pricing for where you are on your jersey. So that is definitely a set price and a set amount. Okay. So that's a little different.
I'll tell you what I love best about what you're doing. Or I don't know if you can guess, but I'll tell you what I love the most about it. But let me start with a short story about the people who live next to us. One of our neighbors live right next door, and their backyard is attached to our yard, so we can hear and see them. They can hear and see us, Anyway, they have 3 little boys. I think they range from like 10 to 2, something like that. Those boys are outside playing all the time. I mean, building castles, running around, making forts, whatever. Like, they are outside all the time, like it used to be in the late 70s and 80s when we were kids.
How about 60s?
When we were kids, it's like they play outside. And I told my neighbor, Grant, Grant, you do such a wonderful job. I said, those boys are outside all the time. And he goes, hey man, I'm all about it. He goes, they don't have tablets. He goes, there's some TV, but not much. He goes, I will not raise kids sitting on the couch holding a tablet with their face stuck in the screen all day long. He goes, they will be outside running around. And guess what? All these boys are slim. They're not little fat kids. They're in decent shape. They're active. They're healthy. And I said, Grant, great job. I said, God knows we need way more of that right now in this country, way more. And so I was giving him a bunch of high fives. And so my point is, that's what I love about what you're doing. We are in this culture of teaching kids. I mean, we are actually teaching kids to live in virtual worlds by wearing these things and like not actually going to do the thing, but pretend like you're doing the thing. And I tell my wife, I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like, we got to get kids outside. They got to exercise, for God's sakes. Anyway, that's what I love about
it is. You know what? It is so true. And, let me tell you, like 2 weeks ago with Lucky to Ride, one of our partnering nonprofit, it's called Take a Kid Mountain Biking Day. Okay. And we go over to Ruby Hill. I get all my volunteers. We had 20 some volunteers from the club so we could do all this. And several of my volunteers are coaches. And these kids come. They've never been on a bike. They can't even ride a bike. It was amazing. I am so impressed. Like my volunteers, they'll take the pedals off the bike. By the end of the ride, they had these kids.
That's great.
Riding their bikes everywhere, even going on, and I don't know if you've even been to Ruby Hill or know about it. It's like a pump course. It's like a little rolly hill track course.
Oh, okay.
And it is amazing. And what you see, and these kids love it because you're giving them attention. You're teaching them to ride a bike. You're helping them out. It's amazing. And it's the same in Tucson. I go over, I ride with those high school kids. I talk to them. I want to know their history. You know what? Those kids look me in the eyes and they talk to me and they carry on a conversation. They tell me their story because someone is interested in them.
Yes.
And they absolutely love it because you know what? They have, they don't have great childhoods.
Yep.
Their home life isn't good.
Yep.
And they don't have anything. And like you put new handlebar tape on their bike and they feel like it's a brand new bike. They get so excited. So it brings me so much joy.
Yes.
Seeing the reaction of these kids. It's amazing.
That's wonderful.
That's truly what I love the most about my job is, I love it, everything about it and all the people, and I love my community, but just the joy I get just watching these kids, outside on bikes, just watching them take off and go.
It's fantastic. I love what you're doing. Yeah. Isn't that magical to be able to do something for a living that you love, that you're passionate about, that ties to a hobby and pays you a little bit of money and helps people and helps society? Right. There you go, Sharon. That's the magic.
It's a win-win all the way around, right?
That's so great. I love it. We ride the number4.org. Sharon, thank you so much for sharing your story and telling us about it on the Riderflex podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.